Well, Walz is a buffoon. I'm sorry. This guy, he's the only school teacher in America who brags that none of his students can get into an Ivy League school.
I had 24 kids in my high school class, and none of them went to Yale.
He's had one consequential press interaction with our Dana Bash, who asked him about the fabrications in his own resume, and his answer was essentially, me no understand words good.
My wife, the English teacher, told me my grammar's not always correct, but again.
Yeah, I mean, the more and more I watch this guy, the more and more I'm like, ugh. Like, for example, watch this. This is the party of joy and happiness and morals and we're good people, yada, yada, yada. Watch what Tim Walz does at this Michigan game.
Oh, yeah. Trump 2024, baby! Oh, yeah. Trump 2024, baby!
You see it. Man's literally flipping people off. 2024, baby! All right, so now look at this. This is how he treated his own son during the Democratic National Convention. Watch this. Just literally yanks his son's arm like that. Rewind it. Like, why would this be necessary? Boom, get your ass over here. He's also not very truthful with people. Watch what he says here. He's never fought in a war, right? So he's never carried weapons in a war, right? But watch what he tells this crowd. Listen to this.
Hope woke up like many of you did 5 weeks ago and said, Dad, you're the only person I know who's in elected office. You need to stop what's happening with this. I'll take my kick in the butt for the NRA. I spent 25 years in the Army and I hunt. And I gave the money back, and I'll tell you what I have been doing. I've been voting for common sense legislation that protects the Second Amendment, but we can do background checks. We can do CDC research. We can make sure we don't have reciprocal carry among states, and we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons are at.
Those weapons of war that I carried in war are the only place those weapons are at. He didn't even have to add, think about this. I mean, I really want you to think about this. He did not have to add those weapons of war, right? He can say that, that's fine. He didn't have to add that I carried in war. He unnecessarily lied. Why? And we're supposed to think that he has good character. He could have just said, hey, we can make sure those weapons of war are not available to the public or whatever. Fair. If that's what you want to make your argument on, whatever. But he literally said those weapons of war that I carried in war. He's lying through his teeth. And it's so bad. I mean, CNN even has to call him out. So watch this.
Walz did make a comment speaking to a group, he's done it a couple of times, where he has used language that has suggested that he carried weapons in a fighting situation. As you know, with your contact with the military, I know from coming from a military family, there is a difference between being in a combat area, being involved at a time of war, and actually being in a position where people are shooting at you.
Yes.
There is no evidence that at any time Governor Walz was in a position of being shot at, and some of his language could easily be seen to suggest that he was. So that is absolutely false when he said that about gun rights out there.
It is absolutely false. And CNN fact-checking it is kind of crazy, but it's the truth. And then when he's asked about it, right? When he gets asked about it, he makes excuses for it and has no shame at all. None. Now watch this.
Starting to get to know you. I want to ask you a question about how you've described your service in the National Guard. You said that you carried weapons in war, but you have never deployed actually in a war zone. A campaign official said that you misspoke. Did you?
Well, first of all, I'm incredibly proud. I've done 24 years of wearing the uniform of this country. Equally proud of my service in a public school classroom, whether it's Congress or the governor. My record speaks for itself, but I think people are coming to get to know me. I speak like they do. I speak candidly. I wear my emotions on my sleeves, and I speak especially passionately about our children being shot in schools and around guns. So I think people know me. They know who I am. They know where my heart is. And again, my record has been out there for over 40 years to speak for itself.
And the idea that you said that you were in war, did you misspeak as the campaign has said?
Yeah, I said we were talking about, in this case, this was after a school shooting, the ideas of carrying these weapons of war. And my wife, the English teacher, told me my grammar's not always correct. But again, if it's not this, it's an attack on my children for sure.
Stop. We don't want to hear that. Listen, the man flat out lied and he won't even take responsibility for it. Yes, sir, you flat out lied. You said those weapons of war, and I quote, that I carried in war. You lied. And then you got called out on it. And rather than admitting, yeah, I lied, Shouldn't have done that. It tells us about your character. And Kamala's sitting there staring at him. Like, look at this. Look at Kamala sitting here staring at him like she's in love with him. To me, it's fake. To me, it's fake. But again, I mean, like, the audacity for you to come, it was just a grammatical error. No, you said you carried weapons of war. And then you get called out on it. And then you try to lie and act like, well, and he tries to cover it up with, well, I'm passionate about, stopping the school shootings. That doesn't mean you get to lie, sir. You lied. So then I go back and I'm thinking, and you know how for a long time they were talking about J.D. Vance being weird, and I'm pretty sure Tim Walz is the one who started that by calling him weird and this and that. But, at first I was like, this is kind of stupid. But, the more I paid attention to Tim Walz, the more that I think it actually might be him projecting. Because the more I've watched Tim Walz, the more I'm like, dude, you're weird. And it wasn't even from a perspective of me being petty, like, oh, he called you weird, I'm going to call you weird. Like, I was watching him, and I was like, this guy is weird. And then it hit me that he was the one calling J.D. Vance weird. Like, so this is what he said. Watch this.
You know it, you feel it. These guys are creepy, and yes, just weird as hell. That's what you see.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
So let me get this straight, okay? She's busy saying, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. And he's basically going, and J.D. Vance is weird? Really? What is he doing? What is he doing? Again, J.D. Vance is the weird one. Not this guy. This guy is perfectly normal. Yeah, you got it. You got it. J.D. Vance is the weirdo. Guy calling J.D. Vance and Trump weirdos. Like, I don't even know why you would use that as a line of attack unless you know people are gonna, and maybe I'm off base here. Maybe I'm just making stuff up. But unless you know people are gonna see you because you've been called a weirdo a lot throughout your life, and they're gonna be like, dang, this guy is weird. So then you try to project that onto your opponent so it doesn't get projected, not even projected. People don't see the reality of you being a weirdo. But I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. That's all I got for now. Like, share, and subscribe. I will see y'all on the next one. Y'all have a wonderful day.